unclaimed dividends, dormant accounts, what should be done to them or with them in this case? But just to mention that we did reach out to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the head of communications, to weigh in on this matter. We're still expecting a response. But let me go back to Mr. Yeku, the President, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. So the question now is, those dividends remain unclaimed. Those accounts remain dormant. What is happening to them, or what has been happening to them all this while that they remain dormant or unclaimed? That's a big question a lot of people are asking also.
The current practice is very simple and it's working. And what happens is that when a company declares dividend, after 15 months, if they still remain unclaimed, those money, 90% of the money will be returned by the registrars to the companies to hold, while the registrar will use the remaining 10% to service the ones that are being claimed from time to time. Now, after 12 years, those unclaimed dividends will then be written back to the books of the company and to be plowed back into the operations of the business so as to expand the business and then to generate further profit, which will be distributed. And the companies have been working with the Secretaries and Exchange Commission, the registrars, to identify those people who own this unclaimed dividend to ensure that they get this unclaimed dividend. And we have also been sensitized, for example, the Institute, we've been sensitizing the government on the need for us to actually work, for the government to work with the various probate registry. That is the major bottleneck we have in this country. If they are able to simplify the process in such a way that when a person dies, you are not asking the person to bring 10% of the net worth of the deceased, it will be easier for them to access get the letters of arbitration or the probate, and then they will be able to claim this dividend. We've recommended to SEC and also to the authorities, let them simplify the process of claiming unclaimed the dividend. As at now, what happens is that if you have unclaimed dividends in 5 companies, you need to fill 5 different forms. And we have said no. Just allow the shareholders to fill one form, list out all the companies where they have this unclaimed dividend, and then the registrars of this company will process and then will pay. And there must be a time frame within which this should be done. It's not something that should be you just be hanging indefinitely. In addition to that, we also identify another segment of people who fall within this category. You know, during the banking consolidation, a lot of people bought shares. Most of those companies, for example, most of those banks, around 2011, you recall we have about 100 banks. Today, we have about 20-something banks. Most of those banks, they have disappeared. And the shareholders assume that, okay, those banks have disappeared, we do not have unclaimed dividend. What the government needs to do is to do something like a corporate mapping, whereby the remaining 20-something banks that are still in existence, let us know the banks they have acquired, so that the shareholder will say, okay, yes, I bought shares in 2012. That company, that bank is no longer in existence, it has been liquidated. That bank has now been absorbed by so bank, so that they know the banks to follow up this with, and then they will be in a position to claim this dividend. Apart from that, going forward, because we are just looking at the immediate problem that we are having about 200 billion. That is nothing. The major problem is, how do we manage this proactively? The best way to do that, which the institute has suggested to the government, is that in the application, the share applications forms we are designing going forward, there should be a provision for a default beneficiary to be provided by the applicant, the shareholder, so that he says that in case of death or whatever, if I have a problem with my account, my dividend should be paid automatically to a beneficiary, a named beneficiary, something close to like a will. So that if the person dies, there is no need for a probate. It's only be paid automatically.
Yeah, very quick one, Mr. Yeku. You heard Mr. Ogunye say the other time that we need to dust up the laws that govern these segments of our life that you're talking about. Has there been any proposition to the National Assembly about this, to ensure that, at least to make this proposition that this should be done so that things can be tied up better?
We have been doing that because we have identified this issue of probate and letters of arbitration as a major problem.
What has been the response?
We have not seen any response that is tangible, because I have not seen anything as at now, and that is why we are concerned. Now, regarding the current issue we are having, the major problem we need to focus on is the effect on the capital market. If there is a mistake to allow this Finance Bill 2020 to be passed with this proposal to expropriate unclaimed dividend, a lot of listed companies will delist. Because the question is this, and if you look at the recent trend, when the big companies, when they delist, they will not delist and fall back to public companies, they go straight to private companies. In such a way, and immediately that happens, they remove their registrars. Okay. So there will be loss of jobs, Apart from that, in the ecosystem, the capital market ecosystem, there are a lot of stakeholders, including the government. For example, whenever there is a trading on the shares of any listed company in Nigeria, the government gets VAT, the government gets stamp duty, the stockbroker.
So many issues, Mr. Ayuku, because I mean, you're talking about the finance bill now. There's still Kama still coming up and all of that, but then